Hello and welcome to LES Energy Ideas. I'm your host, Mary Jane Bruce. Today we'll learn some simple ways to save on our fall energy bills. And then we're going to take a step back in time and revisit segments that focus on public power and what being a customer owner of a public utility means for you. We'll be right back, but stay tuned for a quick lesson on what you can do to help prepare your furnace for winter.
Here's another money-saving tip from Lincoln Electric System.
Hi, I'm Ryan. I'm your host of Save Money, Saving Energy, brought to you by Lincoln Electric System. Today we're going to be talking with Jay Stoa, LES Energy representative, about heating equipment like your furnace. Now Jay, my first question is kind of an obvious one. What does a furnace look like?
Well, in this case, here is your typical furnace right here.
Good. I've always wondered where that was and what it looked like. So Jay, is there anything that I need to do ahead of time before turning it on in the fall?
Before you turn on your furnace, you probably want to have a licensed contractor come out, service and clean your furnace.
Okay, why is that? Why is that important?
Well, the main thing is they're going to make sure that it is running at peak efficiency, and with it running at peak efficiency, you're going to reduce your heating costs throughout the winter.
Great, and it's something that I don't have to do myself, which is always good. Okay, now here's something I'm always in negotiations with my wife about. What's a good temperature to set the thermostat at in the fall?
Well, during the fall and winter, you probably want to set it about 68 degrees.
Okay.
One thing you always need to think about, for every degree you lower your thermostat, you're going to save your heating costs by 3 to 5%.
Oh, that's a good selling point right there. Okay, now what if we're just going to be in the living room watching TV? Do we really need to be heating the whole house?
No, you really don't want to heat the whole house. So what you want to do is lower your thermostat by about 4 degrees. And then you'll probably just use a space heater for that comfort level while you're watching TV.
Great, and I can just carry that space heater around the whole house with me. Okay, all right, thanks a lot, Jay. That should cover it for today. Be sure to visit us on les.com for more money-saving tips. And I'm Ryan, he's Jay. See you next time. Remember, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching.
Fall is ideal for football and for tackling furnace repair and maintenance issues. Better to do it now before it's freezing outside. Here are more tips to help save money and energy this season. Clean or replace furnace filters once a month. A dirty filter reduces your system's efficiency, increases your heating and cooling costs, and shortens equipment life. When cooking on the stove, match pots and pans to the size of the burner being used and put a lid on it to cook food more quickly. And seal air leaks by caulking and weather stripping doors and windows. Try to clean refrigerator and freezer condenser coils once a year to eliminate dirt. Clean coils help appliances run efficiently. Many electronic devices continue to draw energy even when they aren't being used. Unplug battery chargers and other devices when you are done with them, and use a power strip to shut off power to clustered devices. Save money and keep your family safe. Set your water heater thermostat at 120 degrees. Check and add insulation to your attic, exterior walls, and basement if needed. LES's Sustainable Energy Program may even be able to help cover some of the costs. Visit les.com or call LES for more information. Don't go away. We'll be right back after this money-saving tip.
Here's another money-saving tip from Lincoln Electric System.
Hi, this is Ryan, the host of Save Money, Saving Energy, brought to you by Lincoln Electric System. And I'm here with my friend Jay Stoa, who is an LES Energy representative. We are here with my favorite household appliance, the refrigerator and freezer. Now, Jay, when I was growing up, my dad used to always tell us to close the door instead of standing there trying to decide what we're going to eat. Besides that, what are some other tips that people should know about the refrigerator?
Well, obvious things are going to be temperature settings. So in the refrigerator, you want to keep it anywhere between 36, 38 degrees.
Okay, what about the freezer?
In the freezer, you're probably going to be looking about 0 to 5 degrees.
All right, well, what can happen if temperatures are set too cold?
Well, if you set it any lower than those temperatures, of course it's going to run a lot more, and then you're going to be spending a lot more to refrigerate your goods, which you don't necessarily have to.
Gotcha. Now, I've noticed that there's some ice buildup in my freezer sometimes, and a lot of times I just chip it off and use it for my beverages. But what else should I be doing instead of that?
Well, anytime that you have ice buildup, say over a 1/4 inch, you probably want to defrost that, because that ice buildup will make the freezer work harder than it needs to.
Okay, and you also want to make sure that you don't leave your remote control in the freezer. Somehow I tend to do that. Now, one last thing, Jay. My father-in-law, he has a refrigerator in his garage. Is that a good idea?
Actually, no, that isn't a good idea. Think about during the hot summer months, 90, 95 degrees, trying to keep the temperature of that refrigerator. Once again, it's going to work harder than it needs to.
Okay.
So I recommend it in a conditioned space.
Okay, well, I recommend you be the one to tell them that. All right, thanks a lot, Jay, and thank you guys for watching. Check us out at les.com for even more tips on how to save money, saving energy. If I can do this stuff, you certainly can. I'm Ryan, he's Jay. We'll see you next time.
Welcome back. Nebraska is unique in that all of the power sold in the state is for the community, not for profit. Customers are the owners and can rest assured that the people and places you buy your power from care about your community as much as you do, because those people live here too. Public power has survived and thrived in America for well over a century. Here is a throwback to when Dave Landis attended a Public Power Week breakfast LES held for its employees to celebrate being a homegrown utility. Welcome back. Did you know that Nebraska is the only state in the nation where every electric utility is publicly owned? Public power utilities such as LES don't have shareholders or investors that receive dividends from ratepayers' bill payments. Instead, LES is a nonprofit organization that its customers own, which results in some of the lowest rates in the country. To acknowledge the innovations and achievements made by public power, the industry celebrates Public Power Week each year. This year, LES employees were invited to attend a presentation by a historical leader in the public power movement, Nebraska U.S. Senator George Norris. A survey held in 1950 asked U.S. historians to select the top 5 greatest U.S. senators of all time. Only one was chosen from the 20th century, and that was Senator Norris. He served over 40 years representing Nebraskans in the United States Congress. 30 of those years were spent as a U.S. Senator. Senator Norris was known as a champion for the common man and led the effort to enact 2 federal programs that improved the quality of life of America's rural population. They are the Tennessee Valley Authority and the Rural Electrification Act. Dave Landis, former state senator and now director of urban development at the city of Lincoln, portrayed Norris.
I'm a man born during the Civil War. You're citizens of the 21st century, but there is a thread, a rope, a story that connects what you do and what I did when I was in the United States Senate. And I'd like to tell you that story because I'm not so sure Americans remember the story of how public power came to be and what it was meant to do and what it has achieved. Because it is an American tradition that works.
Senator Norris grew up poor on an Ohio farm and learned that for him to rise up from poverty, he would need an education. Senator Norris financed his way through college and then law school, and after graduation finally settled in McCook, Nebraska, where he worked as a lawyer and then a judge. In 1902, Senator Norris ran for the House of Representatives, where he became disillusioned by the partisanship of the 2 parties.
In 1912, I ran for the U.S. Senate. I thought I'd lose, then I'd go back to the practice of law and make some real money. But I got elected. And the first thing I did is I went out on a tour of Western America to the great Northwest in the Pacific area, and we were to look at agricultural conditions. I was in the Agriculture Committee. Here's what I saw. Stopped by a farmer's house one night, and there was a boy, 8 years old. He was learning to read by coal oil lamp. Now, they gave off a dull light and an acrid smoke. The boy was barely able to see the words on the page. The woman, I couldn't tell her age. She was a farm wife. The man's hands were gnarled. He was exhausted from the day. He could barely stand up. But outside their farm, 150 yards away, was a river running towards the Pacific Ocean. I said to him, why don't you and the farmers in this valley put a dam across that river, get yourself hydroelectric power, and run electricity up and down this valley? Lighten your load. He said, we can't do it. Every good location for a dam is already owned by the richest man in Seattle, Washington, James J. Hill. James J. Hill, the railroad magnate, the empire builder, the man who had $100 million in the bank in 1912. $100 million in 1912. And he's waiting, he said, until the interest rates get better. Then he is going to build a dam, but when he does, he's going to run the power to the cities because there's no profit in running electricity to the farms. It's too expensive. He has absolutely no intention of bringing power to farms. There's no profit in it. I thought to myself, what can a man who has $100 million do with more money that would justify leaving a child in the dark?
Shortly after Senator Norris's election, World War I became America's primary focus. And to end the U.S.'s reliance on foreign nitrates for gunpowder, the United States government decided to build a dam large enough to create the power needed to produce those nitrates. The Wilson Dam was built across the Tennessee River near Muscle Shoals, Alabama, but its construction was completed after the war was won. A struggle ensued over what the government would do with the dam. Senator Norris believed that the dam should become part of the Tennessee Valley Authority, which would provide flood control and low-cost electricity to those in the community and not be sold to the private power companies.
Private power companies in those days could take the ratepayers' money and go into other businesses with the ratepayers' money. And what they do, they bought newspapers and radio stations. In fact, the very private power company that was in that Alabama area bought 6 newspapers and 11 radio stations with the ratepayers' money so they could editorialize every day against public power. That's right. And that was the fight. It went on for 15 years. And gradually, I was able to show the value of public power. And one of the ways I did it was to show that there were municipal public power systems. Had been since many years before. Listed the top 10 districts in the country for the lowest rates. The 10 lowest rates in the country, 7 of them were by municipal electric systems like yours. 70% of the lowest rates in the country were public power systems just like LES was. A great record to be able to show for public power.
Through the efforts of Senator Norris proving that public power worked, Congress passed the Tennessee Valley Authority. However, 2 presidents vetoed Congress's decision.
In 1932, I endorsed Franklin Delano Roosevelt, a Democrat, the other political party, because there wasn't going to be progress unless somebody else got elected. 1932, he got elected. They ran me out of the Republican Party, and in 1934, the Tennessee Valley Authority was created. And with that, flood control went into effect, soil erosion was attacked, there was a technology center for fertilizers, and the availability of electricity to the entire valley became a reality. And the year was 1934. How many farms in America had electricity in 1934? 10%. 10%. And you might think, well, that's just because it was slow. No. In France, the number was 50%. In Sweden, the number was 70%. In Japan, the number was 90%. In America, 10%. Why? Because there's no profit in running electricity to farms.
The struggle over the Tennessee Valley Authority and the concept of public power lasted for over 15 years.
As soon as we won the Tennessee Valley, we went right back to work and said we got to electrify farms. The Rural Electrification Administration put money into farmers' hands so they could run their own electrical systems. Now, do you know what public power did in this country? And I bet you'd never guess. It saved thousands of lives. I'm not just talking about being nice or improving conditions. I mean saving lives. In the 30s, thousands of people died every year from pellagra. Pellagra is a kind of malnutrition. It occurred in the South, particularly, where people didn't have refrigeration. It would be like scurvy on a ship, where even though you could eat all you wanted to, if you didn't have the right things, You got sick. Well, that's what pellagra was. You could eat all you want, but it didn't have the right nutrition, and people died out of weakness from it, thousands at a time. And the reason they did is because they couldn't keep food cold. When electricity came to the farms and people bought refrigerators, pellagra died out in the South. Dysentery took thousands of lives. And that was because they didn't have pumps to get water from the river or water, underground water. They had to drag it, and if their privy was close to their water, people died from dysentery. Public power in rural America saved thousands of lives every year for that entire decade. Bet you didn't know that public power helped kids in school.
Just as Senator Norris discovered when he was young, education is one of the crucial elements that help all children rise from poverty.
Kids stayed in school longer, graduation rates went up, college attendance went up, and school performance scores all went up when electricity came to farms. Public power brought children to college. Public power brought innovation. When the private power companies set up those lines, it cost $2,000 a mile to run 1 mile of electricity. Well, the REA went to work, and people like you invented new innovations for transformers and conductors, and also for wire systems. And in only 4 years, public power innovators reduced the cost of running a mile of line from $2,000 to $800. And who did it? Public power workers like you.
Public power also resulted in people working together, not for monetary profit, but for the betterment of their communities.
1937, rural Indiana, a sick woman, frail, respiratory problems, couldn't breathe. Doctor said the only way this woman's going to live is with an electrified oxygen tent. Only kind of one they had was an electric oxygen tent. He said, look, I got one, but there's no power in this house. They had recently organized as a rural electrification cooperative, a rural electric cooperative. That night, her neighbors who ran that electric cooperative got out and ran 3/4 of a mile of line in the middle of the night in a blinding rainstorm. And when the morning came, that woman had an electric oxygen tent that worked. Her life was saved. How much profit was there that night? Did public power ask that day, well, how much money are we going to make on saving her life? They didn't. They got up in the middle of the night, in the middle of a rainstorm, and ran 3/4 of a mile of line to save her life. You don't do that for the shareholders. You don't do that for profit. You do that for your neighbors. You do that for your colleagues. You do it for another human being because you're driven by a higher purpose. And at the heart of public power is a higher purpose. It says people are more important than profits.
LES would like to thank Dave Landis for his inspiring depiction of Senator George Norris and for allowing us to share some of his presentation with you today.
Here's another money-saving tip from Lincoln Electric System.
Hi, I'm Ryan, your host for Save Money, Saving Energy, brought to you by Lincoln Electric System. And this is Jay Stoa. He's an energy representative from LES. And Jay and I are out here among some of Mother Nature's best energy conservers, these big, beautiful trees. Jay, I noticed that these trees in this yard are hanging right over the house here. Is there a good reason for people to do that?
Actually, I think when these trees were planted, they were probably thinking about the summer heating aspect. This is a south-facing house, so these will provide great shade during the summer months to reduce that heat gain through the sun coming into the house, so it's going to reduce your cooling costs.
Great, and they also provide habitat for squirrels who will pay you back with lots of acorns throughout your yard. Now, what about in the wintertime?
Well, of course, what's going to happen in the fall, the leaves will fall, and in the fall, the leaves will fall.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
so now
leaves.
We're going to bring in this free heating through the sun, which is going to help heat the house and is going to reduce the heating costs.
Okay, so it reduces your costs both seasons of the year.
Exactly.
So in a way, you could say that money really does grow on trees. See what I did there?
It does.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, that about covers it. It's as easy as that. Just plant some trees. Even I can handle that. And you can save money and save energy. Visit us at les.com for even more great tips like this. And if I can do it, you can definitely do it. I'm Ryan. He's Jay. Thanks for watching.
Welcome back to LES Energy Ideas. I hope you're enjoying this flashback in time as we take a look at past shows to help tell the story of public power. The foundation of public power is customer engagement, high reliability, affordable rates, and local control. As a public power utility, LES customer owners are critical to the organization's success. It's through customer engagement and participation in LES activities, open houses, and sustainability programs that LES initiatives are attainable. Since the utility's Sustainable Energy Program began, LES forecasts that customer peak demand has been reduced by more than 25 megawatts. But what does that mean for you, the ratepayer? This reduction in demand equates to avoiding $35 million in traditional power plant construction costs, has saved participating customers $5 million each year in energy cost, helped spur $70 million in local economic activity when energy-efficient goods and services are purchased with the help of program incentives. Demand reduction is a large part in helping LES meet its 5-year rolling target of offsetting projected demand growth with sustainable generation and demand reduction resources. That's why LES invested another $4 million in program funds for customer owners to take advantage of this year. Let's take a look back at customers who have participated in the Sustainable Energy Program and the benefits they are receiving. We're here at Universal Cold Storage, a Lincoln business that makes energy efficiency a priority. Universal Cold Storage took part in the LES Sustainable Energy Program that began in 2009 and provides incentives to commercial, industrial, and residential customers for saving energy. And joining me now is John Jacobson, owner of Universal Cold Storage. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We're looking out at your parking lot in this building, which you've told me is actually freezers. Is that correct? Tell me a little about your building, what your business, and what you do.
We have about 375,000 square feet. Probably 275,000 that is freezer, and typically, by our definition, a freezer is 0 or below. And we work with companies that take positions on different meat products, and a typical position might be 50 loads, 100 loads, 200 loads. And with 37,000 pallet positions, we can hold about 1,800 semi-loads of product.
So those ribs you throw on the grill
Yep.
might be in that building right now?
In the building right now.
So obviously with these freezers, I mean, you're talking about some major energy costs.
Oh, yes.
What made you think of applying for the Sustainable Energy Program?
Well, Brent is our representative from LES, and I suppose it was about 3 months ago he was here to talk about an energy audit, which is rather routine. And during the interview or the conversation, he asked if we were thinking of any new programs. And I said, well, actually we were. We had read about a new concept in blast freezing. And blast freezing is generally described as being able to bring product that typically will come in between 30 and 40 degrees, bring it to 0 within about 72 hours. Our old one did the job, but it was inefficient. Typically, we kept it at 30, 35 degrees below 0, and had a number of large fans that just blew the air around. And instead of blowing air at the product, the system actually, through a series of plenums, which is another word for chimneys, draws the air through the pallet. And the product always has what we call a spacer, which is a 2-inch plastic sheet that is kind of checkerboarded so that air can flow through it. We place the pallet up against an open position, and all of the positions will be closed. They're 40 pallet units At the top is a 20 horsepower fan. Set the units in, and we use the air that's in the freezer anyway. Now, the freezer has to be capable of holding at 10 below zero, and because they're new and because we overbuilt them a little bit, it would do that. So we looked at that really seriously, and I banged myself on the head thinking, why didn't I think of this? Because every pallet is exactly the same. We have cold air out there anyway. We're pulling it through the pallet. Everyone is exactly the same. There's no room for error. So Brent and I continued our conversations, and he says, you know, this might work within one of our programs. So that's what started it. And with his support, I decided to go ahead.
And how did you implement that then? You put the technology in place?
He asked for written descriptions on, one, what we have now, and two, what we would have after it was done. Then he calculated the kilowatt savings, and it was frankly substantial.
That's good news, and for a business that means it protects your product and also provides savings.
We win all the way around. One, we are able to bring the product to zero in half the time. Two, we're probably, and I'm just a layperson, I'm going to say we're using 3 or 4% of the energy that we were using beforehand, and every box is frozen in exactly the same time frame. So it was, the more we put the pieces together, and with his subtle support, one of the smartest things we've done in a long time.
Okay, I'll be looking for those ribs at the store.
Yeah,
Thanks.
listen, you know, once
Maybe
in a
I'll
while
just slip over there.
Well, we
and
drop
grab
a box off the pallet once in a while, and you know, we buy it from the owner, and we roast them here.
And they're good.
And they're good. You bet.
Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was such a fun experience visiting John's facility. We're going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere, because when we return, we'll immediately rejoin a past segment when we discussed how Lincoln Public Schools has embraced energy efficiency at its facilities.
Here's another money-saving tip from Lincoln Electric System.
Hi, I'm Ryan, your host for Save Money, Saving Energy, brought to you by Lincoln Electric System. And this here is Jay Stoa, LES Energy Representative, and I'm talking all dangerous like this because I'm holding this really cool weapon that they gave to me, but I don't really know what it is. So can you fill me in, Jay?
Well, Ryan, it's kind of like a gun, but this is a cocking gun.
Okay, so not as dangerous as I thought, maybe?
No, it isn't.
Okay, well, what do I do with a cocking gun? How can using this help me save money and energy?
Well, what it's used for is used to put around doors and windows. What you want to do is if you have any cracks or anything around your door frame or your windows, you're going to use this caulking to fill that, so you're going to reduce any of that air leakage that's going to go into your home.
Okay, and I see you've got something in your hand there, not nearly as cool looking as this, but what is this?
Now, this is a weather stripping, and where you use this is on doors and windows, the operable part of the door or window. So when it closes it, you're going to create a good seal, once again, to reduce any air leakage.
Great, so it helps you save money, and you look pretty cool doing it too. Anything else that people should know about? Is it a complicated system as far as applying it?
No, actually I think it's fairly simple. You'll probably, one thing you have to do is clean all of the excess that's around there before you do install it, but it's really simple to use.
Okay. And
even you can use it.
Even I can. All right, so saving money while saving energy really makes my day. It's good, right?
Yes,
yeah.
It is.
Thank you.
Very nice.
So that's it for today. Check us out on les.com for some more simple, easy tips that even I can do, because if I can do it, you can certainly do it. I'm Ryan, he's Jay. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Welcome back to LES Energy Ideas, and joining us now is Scott Wieskamp, who is the Director of Facilities and Maintenance at Lincoln Public Schools. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Mary Jane. Glad to be here.
And you're here to discuss the measures LPS is taking to reduce the amount of electricity our public schools need to operate. One of those measures that you've taken is to install geothermal heat pumps in our schools. How does a system like that operate?
You know, glad you asked that. We've been in this business for almost 20 years. It started way back in 1993, but geothermal is a concept where we take advantage of the Earth's constant temperature, and it's around 50 to 55 degrees. And so we've been able to use that constant temperature through a system that uses the earth like a radiator system, where we can take advantage of it in the heating system when we don't have to cool 20-degree temperature air, or in the cooling season when it might be 95 or something like that. So we take advantage of that constant temperature to help us heat and cool our facilities.
And where have these systems been installed?
You know, at this point, we're about 84% of our 7 million square feet have been converted to geothermal, and that's been a tremendous project that we've taken on since I mentioned 1993. It started back when we passed the bond issue in '93, and we opened 4 new buildings: Campbell, Cabot, Maxey, and Roper Elementary Schools. And at the same time, we opened Scott and Lux Middle Schools, and the 4 elementaries were geothermal, and the 2 middle schools were a conventional, and it gave us an opportunity to compare the 2 systems. So we've been at it for quite some time, and as I mentioned, 84% of our over 7 million square foot are currently geothermal.
That's great. Now tell me, have there been other upgrades that have helped in this area?
There have been a number of upgrades. You know, we've not only have we done the heating and cooling systems, we've also looked at lighting systems, going to LED. We've also spent some time on temperature controls and invested money there, where we can actually accommodate our facilities when people are in them. And so we have sensors that know when the room is empty, and we bring in less fresh air so we don't have to heat and cool or preheat and pre-cool that air. And we also have sensors that will turn lights off when there's no activity in a room.
I'm sure you're very excited about the new district office that was completed. Has that building been constructed to be energy efficient?
Yes, it has. You know, we've implemented a lot of the same measures that we've implemented in our schools over the last several years, probably even being more aggressive at the new district office. We actually have 180 borings or wells out in the parking lot that are about 300 foot deep that sustain our heating and cooling system. We've invested in new LED lighting throughout the facility, and then the temperature control systems, which we think really save us a lot of money by putting us into night and weekend setbacks, and as we talked earlier, maybe some motion sensors where if we're not utilizing the room, lights will go off, or even fresh air will shut down in those spaces if they're not being utilized. So we've invested a lot, and LES has been a good partner there in helping us sustain those programs and investments.
A brand new building with lots of energy efficient features. Now, have you been able to take advantage of the LES Sustainable Energy Program?
Yeah, they've been a great partner, and the LPSDO, or the district office building, is one of those prime examples. LES came through with some great incentives for us to help offset some of the initial costs for the lighting and temperature controls and the HVAC system.
And then as you look to the future, will energy efficiency continue to play a role for LPS?
I think it'll play a huge role. You know, we talk internally at LPS regarding our budget and how we want to spend our money, and the last thing we want to do is spend it on energy. We'd rather spend it on books and computers and the things that support the classroom, and so we're doing everything we can to continue to provide comfortable environments, but yet try to save money on the utility side. And so geothermal will be a great part of a big part of our future as we continue to invest in new facilities.
Okay, and I'm sure Lincoln taxpayers appreciate your efforts. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
As we have discussed, for-profit companies must pay dividends to their investors, while our dividends are lower rates and superior service. For decades, LES rates have ranked among the nation's lowest. This year, they ranked 11th lowest overall out of the 106 cities surveyed. By continuing to operate as efficiently as possible, LES was able to avoid a rate increase in 2015 and continue providing the low-cost, high-value electricity customer owners rely on. Furthermore, LES's contracts for an additional 273 megawatts of wind energy by 2016 will help reduce the impact of future rate increases while demonstrating its commitment to the environment and resource flexibility. When these resources go online, an equivalent of 48% of LES's annual retail energy sales will be supplied by renewable generation. Maintaining affordable rates and high reliability also helps make the communities we serve attractive to businesses looking to relocate. As the community's electric service provider, another key responsibility is to plan and operate LES in a way that reflects the needs and values of its customer owners. LES's 9-member administrative board works diligently without compensation on the policies that give LES the ability to do what it does so well. The LES board members come to the table with a variety of work experience, ranging from finance, engineering, law, and community outreach. And the Lincoln City Council also provides oversight into LES processes, focusing on rates, budget, and financing, and the general public's involvement is also an important component of that local control. Up next, we're going to get a blast from the past as we watch the current LES Administrative Board Chair not only perform the work of an LES employee, but give us the opportunity to view firsthand what LES employees do on a daily basis, why they do it, and how they take pride in the work they do. Welcome back. I'm sure at some point we've all wished we had the ability to see things other people can't. Well, today, University of Nebraska professor and LES Administrative Board member Jerry Hutchins is going to get that chance. Jerry, are you ready to gain some insight into LES's Thermovision program?
Oh yeah, I'm excited to get going on this and learn about this technology that LES uses for their system operational reliability, improve efficiency, and safety. I'd like to thank Phil Shell for joining us today. Phil and I are at the LES Walter A. Caney Service Center, and as a UNL faculty member and LES Administrative Board member, I'm certainly interested in this technology and how LES uses this to provide better service to its customers. Phil?
Pleasure being here, Jerry.
So Phil, as an LES thermographer, explain to us how this system works.
Anything above absolute zero emits thermal energy, and these new infrared imagers or cameras convert this thermal energy to thermal heat. And within this, they're set up to show bright spots as hot and darker spots as cool.
How does LES use this infrared technology, and why is it important?
Well, this infrared technology is very unique. We can actually inspect our equipment while it's energized. So the equipment just is in its normal state. And its safety and of course money saving are the two big issues. Safety to the employees. If they're doing maintenance in a substation, I can pre-scan that. If the guys are out switching our lines and want to route the electricity a certain way, if there's a problem on the equipment, they can change their plans and switch it a different way. When we get back to the shop, we document this and then route it to the department for repair.
Okay. Now, since LES has started using this infrared technology, about how many hotspots would you estimate have been located?
Well, we started in 1987, and we did it just a couple of weeks out of the year at first, but since then we found right at 5,000 hotspots, which is about an average of 200 a year.
Well, now that I have a better understanding of the technology, what say we get out in the field and do some work?
Let's go, Jerry.
Phil, this rig's got more gadgets than the Batmobile.
Yes,
Tell me what goes on around here.
Well, let me show you that. This is what the infrared image is usually on this screen. We have a real-time camera up there, and the real-time image will be on that monitor. So we kind of know where we're going, and I can also grab an image and put it in the report. And actually, we can do a lot with this if we need to. It's like an editing studio. But usually what we do is we'll find the temperature. We can manipulate it as far as the coloring to see where we can see it the best, you know. And then I've showed you what a hotspot looks on this monitor. Let's see if we can find it in the camera itself.
All right.
Sometimes, Jerry, if we can't get a good image from the vehicle, we can take this and use it as a portable. And it's the same functions as when we're in the van. So let's see if you can find this hotspot. All right.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, now that you've found it, just squeeze this button.
Okay.
And that will freeze that image. Now we can find the temperature of it, and what I do is I compare the two other ones. I get an average temp, and I'll take the temperature of that, and that difference I will write on our report, the thermogram, and from that temperature we'll be able to tell what criteria it is. We have to fix it ASAP or it can wait a month.
Okay.
And
Great.
if you hold this button down, there's a flash card in here, it'll freeze it on there, and then we can download it and
Save
go
it
from
from
there
there.
and save it. Very good job, Jerry. Now that you've become a level 1, let's go find another hotspot.
All right, Phil. So when you're driving down the street, what do you see?
We can only see a heat image of whatever we're looking at. This will not work through glass.
Really?
It will not work through metal,
Uh-huh.
through paper, through anything. It's just
Okay.
like your eye. You have to visually see it. So when we're driving down and going and from the street shining to the back or scanning to the backyard to check, inspect our power lines, we can't see into the houses or anything about it.
Okay.
Because it does not, it's just a surface image is all we see.
Okay.
So go ahead and look at it and then put it out of focus. And then focus it back in so you can find it. Okay, now hit that freeze button, that S button right there. Get it in the center and freeze it. All right, now
There we are.
that is at 108 degrees.
So this is, in this particular case, this is a piece that would eventually cause a problem, but it's not a critical item to deal with
We're
immediately.
catching it as it's migrating up.
Okay. Well, Phil, thanks very much for taking me out here and explaining how this system works and showing us some examples of the technology and how LES uses it to improve the system. Appreciate your time.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of LES Energy Ideas. I hope you enjoyed this look back as we revisited some very special guests and all of my different hairstyles. To remain connected with what your local electric utility is doing in the community, visit les.com or follow LES on Facebook and Twitter. Until next time, remember, it's your electricity. Own it.